Everyone says they want to downsize into a townhome, but the reality is that most modern builds feel like a vertical shoebox. If you're coming from a 5,000 square foot detached house, losing half your space is a tough pill to swallow. But what if I told you there's a secret class of luxury townhomes in South Surrey and White that actually rival the size of a mansion? We're talking over 5,000 square foot homes, private vineyards, and backyards that look directly onto golf course fairways. These are the legacy giants, built back when land was cheaper and developers weren't afraid to go big. Today, we're going on a sized-based tour of the most massive townhomes in the area, perfect for anyone looking to maintain a certain size of home or relocating to the area and wants to live in luxury without all of the obligations of a detached home. We're gonna start with the legendary gold standard and end with one of my personal favorites from my top 3 list. If you want the space of a house without the massive yard to mow, you need to see the townhome complexes on this list. Let's get into it right now.
You only get one chance to buy or sell your next home. Let's get it right.
Hey, worth mentioning, my name is Darren. I'm a real estate professional based right here in White Rock in South Surrey. And I've been helping families buy and sell homes here since all the way back to 2007. And since then, I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of people over the years, many of whom found me right here on this very YouTube channel. So if you're seriously thinking about making a move and want some smart local advice with zero pressure, just real insight, there's a link in the description to book a time to speak with me and my team. And together, we'll help you make the right move with confidence. The challenge for most luxury buyers in South Surrey isn't finding a beautiful home. It's finding one that doesn't come with a part-time job attached. Whether you're an empty nester transitioning from a 7,000 square foot estate in Elgin, or a family with older kids who still needs their own zones in the house, the traditional detached house can start to feel a little bit like a burden. You want the high-end finishes and the massive square footage, but you're done with the weekend-long haul of landscaping, roof repairs, and exterior maintenance. The problem is, when you look at most modern townhomes, they feel like a compromise. You end up with shared walls, no storage, and a layout that feels cramped the moment you try to fit your existing furniture inside. But there is a very specific sweet spot in our market, the legacy complexes that offer the lock and leave security of a strata without forcing you to sacrifice the grand scale of a detached property. And if we're talking about the gold standard for luxury townhomes in South Surrey, we have to start at the Wedgewood in Morgan Creek. Built right around the year 2000, this gated community is located at 15715 34th Avenue, and it isn't your typical townhouse development. These are massive executive residences that are often larger than the detached houses in the area. We're talking about a scale that simply doesn't exist in newer construction. You've typically got over 2,200 square feet on the main level alone, another 1,000 square feet upstairs, and nearly a 2,000 square foot basement. With a total footprint that can reach over 5,300 square feet, these homes can easily host 5 to 7 bedrooms. The lifestyle here as well is pure resort living. The complex is built directly alongside the Morgan Creek Golf Course, with many units backing right onto the fairways for unobstructed green views. But even if you aren't on the golf course side, the landscaping inside the gates of this complex is legendary, filled with man-made waterfalls, ponds, and streams that wind through the backyards, creating that constant tranquil sound of running water. Inside the homes, the Firestone plans are famous for their grand spiral staircases, vaulted ceilings, and primary bedrooms on the main level, making them perfect for people that want to age in place without sacrificing luxury. Because of that massive square footage and the premium location, the larger units here are currently selling for around $2 million, at least at the time of filming this video. And keep in mind that with 96 units and extensive water features to maintain, the strata fees here are typically on the higher side, typically anywhere between $800 to $1,000 per month. But for many, that's a small price to pay for this level of exclusivity and lock and go security. Now, onto our second complex. If Wedgewood is the gold standard of the golf course resort life, Hazelmere Village is the definition of pastoral prestige. Built in 2001 and located on 8th Avenue around the 180 block, this is a much more intimate boutique community with only 42 units. The first thing you need to know about Hazelmere is the location. It is definitely a bit further out. You are right on the edge of the US border, tucked away in a rural pocket of South Surrey that feels like the deep countryside. You're definitely not walking to a coffee shop here. here. It is a car-dependent lifestyle, but for the people who live here, that exclusive seclusion is exactly the point. Now, the scale here is incredible. These are wide, sprawling duplex-style units that feel much more like detached ranchers than townhomes. You're typically looking at a main floor of about 1,800 square feet, which usually holds the primary bedroom and even a second bedroom and a den, plus a smaller 650 square foot loft above and a massive 1,800 square foot basement. All in, you're looking at a total house size of around 4,200 square feet. One of the biggest legacy perks here is the parking. While most modern townhomes struggle to fit 2 SUVs, many units at Hazelmere feature longer driveways, allowing you to park 4 vehicles in total, 2 in the double garage and 2 outside. And because it's built directly into the Hazelmere Golf and Tennis Club landscape, the most coveted units back right onto the 18th green or overlook the tranquil ponds. Inside, you'll find high-end Craftsman Plus finishes like forced air heating, AC, and vaulted ceilings. And because of its rural location, the price point is a bit more accessible than Morgan Creek, with units usually selling around the $1.5 million mark, at least at the day and time of filming this video. It is arguably the best value per square foot in the city for anyone who wants a massive, quiet home surrounded by rolling hills and heritage farmland. Now, before we touch on the third complex on our list of the most massive South Surrey and White Rock townhomes, if you're even thinking about buying a home, whether it's in the areas that me and my team serve of White Rock, Surrey, or the surrounding municipalities, it could really be anywhere in BC, you're gonna wanna grab a copy of our free PDF, 21 grants and rebates for home buyers. We've pulled together every program we could find, from federal, provincial, and even niche local ones, plus tips, links, and quick ways to save that are often hard to find, buried, and made way too confusing. So we've sourced them and put them in one single spot for you to take full advantage. It's totally free and could save you thousands. So you can get it now by using the link below in the description of this video. Okay, so for our final stop, and the one that actually claimed a spot on my top 3 townhomes in South Surrey list, we're headed to Ventera Villas in Grandview Heights. Built between 2008 and 2011 at the 2600 block of 162nd Street, this complex represents the evolution of luxury in the area. While it's the youngest on our list, it still belongs to that era of generous footprints, with units reaching just under 4,000 square feet. And what makes Ventera the grand finale is the architectural sophistication. It was heavily inspired by an architect named Lloyd Wright, featuring low-pitched roof lines, oversized windows, and a private on-site vineyard. Yeah, vineyard that makes the entire complex feel like a Napa Valley estate. The layouts here are also pretty impressive. You've got those dramatic 18-foot soaring ceilings right in the entryways that create an immediate sense of volume. And unlike the 2 previous stops, you aren't relying on a golf course here for your view. Instead, many of these homes back onto a private park-like green space with the southwest-facing patios that are perfect for evening barbecues. Now, you're also in a sweet spot here, much different than the other 2 for location, because you're just blocks away from the 100 plus shops and restaurants at Morgan Crossing and Grandview Corners, meaning you can actually walk to grab a coffee or hit the gym without ever even touching your car keys. Now, inside the units, the finishes remain top tier with stone countertops and a high-end chef's kitchen. And let's remember, these are newer than the other ones on our list. For a 3,100 square foot to a 3,800 square foot villa here, you can expect a current price tag between 1.5 to 1.6 million, though the largest executive plans can push higher. It's the perfect blend of that legacy scale with the more modern walkable lifestyle that a lot of people are interested in. Now, a word of caution for you before you jump into one of these massive legacy units, whether it's in any of the complexes we're talking about today, there are a few practical realities that you need to keep in mind. First is the parking pivot. When these homes are the size of a detached house, they sit on strata land still. You have to remember that. And if you have a large family with several drivers, parking is often going to be your biggest hurdle, as visitor spots are strictly enforced and street parking can be a hike or just really difficult to get. Unless it's like one of those units at Hazelmere that was on number 2 of our list, and that's where they become really quite special. Second, it's important to remember the no suite rule when it comes to properties like this. Under BC law, you cannot add a secondary suite or a mortgage helper to a townhome, regardless of how massive that 2,000 square foot basement is. What you see is the living space that you get. And finally, I want to talk about the size to strata ratio. This is an important one because these buildings are now 15 to 25 years old. You want to do your homework on these. Look closely at the depreciation reports and the contingency funds. You aren't just buying a home, you're buying into the long-term infrastructure and assets of the entire complex. You want to know exactly what's coming, not just a year from now, but a decade down the road, so your investment stays as solid as the day it was built. And remember, the bigger the unit, typically, the bigger the strata fee. At the end of the day, these legacy giants represent a specific era of South Surrey real estate that we're just not seeing anymore. They are the perfect solution for anyone who wants the prestige and the 4,000 plus square foot scale of a luxury detached home, but is ready to trade the endless yard work for a lock and go lifestyle. Whether it's the waterfalls of Wedgewood, the pastoral peace of Hazelmere, or the modern vineyard vibe at Ventera, these complexes prove you don't have to sacrifice grand living just because you're moving into a strata. You get the massive basements, the double garages, and all the high-end finishes all wrapped in a secure, professionally managed community. But I also realize that for a lot of people, 5,000 square feet is still a lot of house to manage. If you're looking for that same luxury in South Surrey, but in a slightly more manageable footprint and at a more accessible price point, you won't want to miss my next video. I'll be revealing some other local favorites. These spots are absolute gems for those who want high-end living without the mansion-sized floor plan, all in incredibly well cared for complexes in perfect locations and absolute unbeatable value. If that sounds like it's of interest, the good news is in that video, it's coming up next. The problem is real and it's frustrating. Young families moving to South Surrey keep running into the same headache. Trying to find a townhome that fits your budget, gives you enough space, and checks all the boxes for you and your family, it's like trying to win the real estate lottery.